going to do a little equipment shuffle here, so it takes a minute for the machine to reconnect itself. I was hoping Barbara would be able to say exactly how many she had indexed, but I know that since she started a few years ago, she has indexed a lot herself, but she's been in charge of an army of indexers here that for a couple of years their goal was to do 250,000 names a year. So we have a lot of experience with this and know that it will work. When Family Search started to do it, well, let me back up one step. The LDS Church, or Mormon Church, has been collecting names for almost 200 years now. It was one of the early things. We've got over 12 billion names in our archive in Salt Lake. 12 with 9 zeros behind it. Okay? And we called in a group of IT people and said, we'd like to digitize this and change the process. Because up to that time, you just had to know my parents were from Italy. And they would say, well, okay, here's the index, here's the list of all of the tapes we have in Italy. Then you got to go and look at all 500,000 tapes in Italy that each had 50,000 names on it, scroll through it one at a time. Well, here's my ancestor right here. Here's the name I'm looking for. Well, that's not very efficient. So we called in this group of folks to help us understand, and they said, well, how big's your database? We told them, well, we've got 12 million microfilm files here. Oh, wow. Well, the best that we can do with modern technology is probably going to be about a 30-year project, and it's going to be several $1 billion. And a student at BYU said, well, data punch cards, you have two people put it in, and if they're the same, it goes. If they're not, then you bring it back and you look at it again. Why don't we just have people do this individually, and we'll do the same thing? So that's where the indexing phenomena came. And so in about 5 years, we've indexed a little over a third of that archive we have in Utah. And we hope to have all of it done within 3 more years. Now, this file came to us over 1 million records that we wanted to index. And our goal was to have all of that done in 1 year. Well, it took about 6 months to get going, so it was last June when we've actually started the project off, and we're hoping that we'll have that all done by this fall when the center opens. Now, what I wanted to do is show you 2 things today. One is indexing is great, and we would love to have your help. But indexing is not an end in and of itself. Indexing is just a tool that's going to create a new resource for us. There is already a tremendous resource that you can use to help motivate your family and friends to look at their ancestors in a little different mode than maybe they have in the past. And that is simply to go to the internet and type in discoverfriedman.org. So this is all live now. We're on the internet. And you'll see some familiar things here right off the bat. You recognize this right away? Okay. So this is all public access. You can have this any way you want to get it, on your iPhone, on your iPad, on your computer. Each one of these things up here will take you to different places in the project and help you understand things that you can do. But I'd like to start right here. This is the video that Doug showed that talks about at the end of the Civil War, 4 million slaves were freed. Okay, Jim, how much? You're going to have to raise the flag and say time. Okay. Does that work better?
Better. Thank you.
Okay. So I don't want to play this whole video, and I haven't learned how to go to step 2 yet. but I know how to get a shortcut to step 2.
There you go.
If I just come here, move this over to the end, it will open up another sequence of opportunities for us here. Each year there's a worldwide genealogy conference held in Salt Lake City called Roots Tech. And it's the biggest genealogy gathering in the world. And these are some things that they had, some presentations they had there just this past month. And I'm going to skip this guy because he introduces the next person that really, my eyes just wept when I saw this lady's story. Because it's a story every one of us are going to discover when we start working through this. Her name is Paula Madison, and you're going to see here, here's a 2-minute and 19-second news clip they did of her, but here's her presentation at the conference. I would encourage all of you to go to this presentation and to read it. But just to give you a sense of what it's about, I'm going to play it.
Family history is all about stories and where the stories take us. And one person who is a classic example of that is one of the speakers here at Roots Tech 2016, Paula Madison, who is a best-selling author and a movie producer. Your story, the movie, it is all about your life. First of all, where did your story take you?
I grew up with a mother who had been separated from her father when she was 3 years old, and that was the end of her relationship with her father. And so my brothers and I always wanted to find her father, who was Chinese. And so where in China does one go? What I knew was that my grandfather had departed Kingston, Jamaica to return to Hong Kong somewhere around 1934. So I typed in my grandfather's name, his Western name, Samuel Lowe, Guangdong, China, Kingston, Jamaica, 1934. And what I got from Family Search was the passenger list of the ship that my grandfather took in 1933. We then went back to Jamaica and found more clues about our grandfather, and ultimately we ended up in Shenzhen and Guangdong, China. And I ended up being able to say clearly that I am Black, Chinese, Jamaican, and I am the 151st generation of the Lowell clan, and our documented lineage goes back 3,000 years to 1006 BC. That's where I ended up. And today, I have a very exciting future, because when we found our family, 300 of them welcomed us in Guangzhou, China.
It's your great inspiration for
Thank you. Can I try one thing?
Yeah.
Can I take off my glasses so people can see whether I look Chinese or not?
Okay.
Well, how are you Chinese? So I don't know. I like to do this so people can make up their own minds. Ready? Here we go. Look past the skin, look around the hair, and you make up your own mind. How's that?
Like you said, we're all one big family. Whatever we look like, whatever the glasses or hair or eyes or whatever, we're all one big family, which is the story here at Roots Tech.
Okay, so you can look through these and you can see all of these presentations, and they're just excellent and help you understand all of us have a history. Every single one of us have a history. And when we start looking for it, we're going to find that we have far more history than we ever dreamed of. Doug, hand me the little paper there. One of the other videos here is a young guy by the name of John Henry Huffman IV. And he lives in Los Angeles, and they just included him on a little clip. If you just go to YouTube and put in Freedmen's Bureau, he will show up on that, and you can hear this in his personal words. But he talked about what an exciting thing it had been to him. He got a call from an aunt who told him Uncle George died. Well, Uncle George is a great uncle, but he wanted you to have this. and he held up the family Bible.
Oh, goodness.
I did the same thing to me when I watched that. And then he tells a little bit about what that has meant to him. And he said, it made my stories of my grandfather real. He said, every morning my grandfather got up, put on a suit, picked up his briefcase, and walked to the steel mill. When he got to the steel mill, he changed into his steelworker clothes and worked all day in the steel mill. And when he was through, he went back to the locker room, put on his suit, tie, picked up his briefcase, and walked home. He said, as I read that story, my grandfather became a different person to me. He said, I all at once realized that I am like him. I want to succeed. I want to contribute. I want to provide. And I want to do it with dignity. Now you're going to find, as you begin to research and discover things in these records, that your ancestors were exactly the same. They wanted to succeed, no matter what their circumstance, no matter how heavy their taskmaster was. They wanted to succeed. They wanted to provide. They wanted to contribute, and they wanted to do it with dignity. You're going to find that your people are a lot of the foundation of the work that we celebrate today with religion, with music, with, look at the things around the room here. The inventors, how many things does the whole world owe to the creativity and ingenuity and desire to contribute of the African-American families here in the United States from 150 to 300 years ago. It's all there. So you're going to find things. One of these videos is of Gladys Knight, telling about her story. A lot of things here available for you.
I can't get that right now.
The tap of the key and the opening of the door. The powerful thing is that once this part is done, then these records are all going to be available, like Paula said. You type in the name, and within seconds, you have what's here. If you don't get anything, then that means, okay, did I spell the name right? There's a whole bunch of tools you go through to help you figure out where to go, but you'll get there. How many of you remember the Harrison Ford still did movies about Raiders of the Lost Ark? Remember Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yes.
Remember the end scene? What is it? They're taking the ark in a box, sealed up into what?
Warehouse.
Warehouse. Guess what else was in that warehouse? Freedmen Bureau records were all there. They've been there for 100 years. We just haven't had the energy or the knowledge they were there and the interest to go and find them. We now know where they are, and we know how valuable they will be. So that's really the purpose of this project. Jim, how much time do I have?
We want to get the lights back up. Yeah, okay, good. How much more do you need?
If I can take about 3 or 4 more minutes.
Sounds good.
I'll demonstrate what you'll do after you log into Family Search and get your own family search tree. So here's the icon on my computer.
You can access that through the library database we talked about earlier.
Yep.
nccde.org databases and e-media will take you to Family Search.
Well, this is a different,
Yep,
this is an actual a site other than Family Search.
If you're going to do indexing,
and
if you're going to do indexing, you need to have this application on your computer. So that's why it's a step outside. Okay, so I put in my name, or my username, and my password.
So I guess we will see what your percentage is.
I didn't know it was there, I was wondering. And it always brings up a tip. You can ask it to show more tips or not to bring them up anymore. So I haven't been an ardent indexer, but I have indexed 30 records. Okay. So then you just go up here to download the batch. And then the Freedmen's Bureau ones are at the bottom of this list. Okay? So there's contracts, indentures, the education records, land and property records, complaints. If somebody, said you weren't fair to me, you told me you'd give me $4 a day, and you're not giving me $4 a week, they could file a complaint, and then that would go in and be arbitrated in the community with whoever was set up to do it. So you can find out, who was gypping your uncle, how he got resolved. All of that will be in here. Let's look at some of these others. Persons and articles hired. If somebody was hired and were working for somebody, then you know who they were working for. And a lot of times you will get tremendous amounts of history by going back to that person and finding out what the ABC company was, or what the Pink Panther plantation was, or whatever it was there. You'll be able to find out from other public records exactly what was going on. And then claims, pensions, and bounties. Now, Doug talked a little bit about, it gives you here the level. You can see there that this one is intermediate, then this one is advanced, and then all of the rest of them are intermediate. So there isn't anything to be afraid of there. It's just that the records were done by different people in different places. Some of them have incredibly beautiful handwriting, and you won't have any trouble reading their handwriting at all. Others, I like the rest of them. It's there. You have to do a little bit of transcribing. The other thing that you'll find is that not only was there not necessarily good quality in putting the records together, there's also a little bit of issue about the way they were put in the boxes that went to that big warehouse where they've sat for 150 years. I did one the other night from the education files. I thought that would be really good to do that one. It didn't have anything about education on it. It had something to do with land grants or purchases. So right over in, let me just bring one up here. Maybe I can get a similar thing today. I'll just choose this. So it opens this batch. So here's the name of the, here's, scroll down here a little bit. Okay, here's the instructions, the project instructions that was mentioned in the back. Each time you open a different kind of record, it's going to tell you what's important there. Okay? And so as you scroll down and read here, it will give you some sample images and all of those types of things, and what is unique about it, what they're looking for. So that sets the stage for you, so you know, okay, I'm on the right place, I'm going where I need to go. And then you can get going on the whole process. So Here's, the calligraphy is incredible. I mean, I couldn't draw to match anything like the way this person writes. And you'll find each of the names in this entry are the same type of thing. And this is similar to what I got the other night. I don't see anything that talks about teachers, or I don't see anything about student names here. So I think this is a file that's been misfiled and will be redirected somewhere along the line. So I'm going to opt out of this one and just close. But this is why it's marked as intermediate, is you do have to make some judgments and some assessments. Now, you can go through the training online, and in 2 or 3 or 4 hours you'll be able to feel comfortable to do this, or you can go to one of the family history centers and have somebody sit with you for 10 or 15 minutes and have you going, and then the last 2 hours you're at the family history center, you're actually doing it. You'll have some issues, you'll learn how to get around them, and so on. So that's why I make employ for you to spend a little bit of time at one of the family history centers, or if you have a group or want to do this at home and you just can't get out to there, let us know. And we've got some people that would be glad to come to your group meeting or to your home and provide some individual training for you to help you get going on it. 2 things I'm fairly confident. One thing I'm positive, and I'm quite sure of the second thing will happen. The first thing, you're going to find this is an emotional experience, because you're going to see things and understand things as you write the names and type them in and see where you're getting the name from. You're going to generate an emotional attachment to that person. Whether they're related to you or not, you're going to be emotionally attached to them. The second thing is that you're going to, a lot of times, feel a spiritual attachment as well. We are all children of a loving God. And all of those who have gone before us are children of that same loving God. And they've gone to be with Him now. We will be with them eventually. And I'm positive He lets us share things back and forth across this veil when we try to work to bring those things together. So I encourage you, I hope that you will take the time, if you really are afraid of the computer and don't want to do the indexing, get on the Freedmen's Bureau and just look at the wonderful messages that are there and use them in your congregations, in your family, and just share them to strengthen them and help it all go. Thanks again for inviting us, and we look forward to having any or all of you, and all of those you can bring, come to the Family History Center and get the training that will open a door to a new horizon to you. And you'll find that some of you are Black, Chinese, Jamaican. Some of you are going to find your Black, Welsh. You're going to find your Black, English, German, Prussian. Some of you are going to find your German, English, Prussian, Black. That's all right. We're all children of a God who loves us and gave us the opportunity to work together and to learn to live and serve together. So thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank Wynn and Florida for the presentation today. It's vital that you follow this up. Don't think it's that complicated, is the only thing I want to say. Sort of following in on Wynn's comment, if you haven't done any of this at all, go to the Family Research Center, particularly the one in Newark. I like that one. Just go there and let them work with you. It's a great place to go. They take the time. You don't have to feel intimidated about not knowing something about the computer or any of that stuff. They'll help you all along the way. So please do that when you get a chance. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And we will look forward to some report down the road as to the number of members we have working with your organization. That's a good thing. We've got one other presentation about from Crystal Vader, and Again, she's just an amazing artist, I think, spoken word artist, and she's got one more piece she wants to share with you. Crystal?
If anybody needs hospitality, the restrooms are just across the hall, next to the water fountains. So it's been a long morning.
Good afternoon again. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for embracing my rendition of The Return of Harriet Tubman. I worked hard on that piece, and I thank you. As it was mentioned, I am an artist. I'm also a poet. And because we've been sitting so long, and I know, well, my poems are not long, so I just want to get you familiar with who I am. I am me, just like you are you, and she is she. I'm a woman of morals and standards and spirituality. You see, in me, you have a friend because I believe in confidentiality, yet you need to know who am I. I'm an artist, a teacher, an aromatherapist, and a poet. You see, I have a lot of God-given talents. You just need to know it. For I wear my canvas on my chest, near my heart, decorating my breast. Now, my talents, these are all gifts from God above. So in all that I do, I must show love, yet you need to know who am I. I'm the sister that walks down the street, unafraid of the challenges that life has had me to meet. But then again, I'm also the educator with the booming voice. And I make sure that you know, in all you do, you have a choice. But then again, y'all, I'm that girl that can sling that slang very fluently, because really my age has nothing to do with me. Oh, I'll bring the noise if it needs to come. You see, I don't have a problem dealing with anyone. I can break it down and reach you right where you sit or stand. Never let it be said that I could not converse with my fellow man. Now, I'm sure after all this, you now know who I am, because I am me just like you are you, and she is she. Age ain't nothing more than mind over matter, and I'm 60. But trust me, if you don't mind, it might not matter. But if you can't make it, don't fake it. Step back and let somebody come by. Take it. Thank you, and that is my signature poem on my CD. Plug in. But anyway, the name of the poem today, as I was going through the journey with this group that I embrace, and I thank Mr. Jones for reaching out to me, and it has been an awesome journey. I remember being in the 8th grade, and we had a project. We had to look up 100 African Americans. Why 100? I ain't interested in these people dead and gone, but when I got to about 30 of them, the inventions, the things that they did, their contributions, I was wrapped, tied, and tangled, and I've been researching and doing things ever since. So it's awesome. Your children might not want to get into it at first, but when you show them, when you begin to tell them, then they will embrace it. And those of you that know me know that I'm not a paper poet, so you need to know that this is brand new, because usually I just like to spit it, hit it, and quit it. That's how I say it. I talk and rhyme all the time, but that's just who I am. And this is called Born a Slave. How would I behave if I was born a slave? I often sit and ponder and wonder, would I get up on my high horse and run, or continue twisting and turning with my body burning to the rhythm of the noonday sun? Or would I quietly slip away and not tell anyone? Really? Is this the way I would behave if I was born a slave? Ducking, dodging, slipping, hiding, peeping, creeping, or contemplating, hesitating, simply waiting for a chance to take off at all costs, just to get lost. But really, what I want to do is show these folks who's boss. I often wonder how would I behave if I was born a slave? But I wasn't born a slave. Instead, I was born with a vision and with a purpose. All you got to do is look beneath my surface. Don't judge me by the color of the skin I'm in. You see, I don't have that slave mentality. There are no chains holding me. You can't then and you can't now stop our creative flow. Didn't you know that all these things was the inevitable? Not to mention our inventions. Can't you see the wealth and the value? It's beyond their comprehension. You see, you can't talk about history without talking about our ancestors and without them getting attention. Because I spent many a day with my face turned towards the sun, wondering, trying to figure out, Lord, what is it that our race has done? But on today, I could truly say that I no longer feel that way. You see, I no longer feel inferior because God has anointed and appointed and made me superior. Having been given the title of Mother Earth and the task to go forth and multiply and give birth, look at Obama, birth the future leaders of nations, generations, and heads of state. I say, why wait? But when the smoke clears, y'all, in just a few years, can't you just see yourself reigning and ruling all over God's land, trying to get some of these people to understand that for some of us, this just might be an awesome piece of poetry. But for those of us that have the third eye that can plainly see, this is our actual reality. And who am I? Crystal Bainer Norman, straight out the box and off the chain. And when I'm gone, it's my words that will remain. All right.
She is too. She is. We are working on getting her on a national stage. Wilmington isn't big enough. We gotta go. We gotta go bigger than that. Gotta go. It's just a very impressive person. Okay, we got Regina Barry, one of our executive committee members, and she wants to talk to us a little bit more about just genealogy research. We know that you've heard about the Freedmen's Bureau project, and a lot of that's genealogy too, but Regina's got her own approach, and we're gonna take a look at hers. Now, in all of this, keep watching for what you'd like to do. That's the reason why we're presenting all these to you now. And you can talk to anyone who presents here later about how to get started. Okay, Regina?
Okay. I'm going to show you some tricks, some hints, some ideas about what you can look for when you're looking for genealogy records for your family. I'm using Family Search. You can use that at home, here in the library, at the Family History Center. You can use Ancestry. But what I'm going to show you is not specific to the site. It's a way to look at a record and think about it. I've been involved in a 5-year project now to recreate the burial records at Mount Olive Cemetery. So the volunteers for my presentation today are residents at Mount Olive. So they're going to help you learn about genealogy research. And so when I come in, I go in to search. And I always tell people, if you put too much information in, you will get much less out. Start simple. And I'm going to pick the gentleman whose family I've been working on for the last couple of weeks, because my cemetery site includes information about the families too. And his name is William Furrow. And it's spelled kind of oddly, certainly not with that. It is spelled with an I. But spelling, age, even race is a little bit flexible. And you're going to see this in the examples I'm going to bring up for him. Now, there's a lot of ways to search. You could just plug in a name, but you'll get billions of records, and that's really not what we want right now. So I'm going to add a residence, because I know he lived in Wilmington, Delaware. And I'm just going to use Delaware. And I'm going to tell it, stick to Delaware, please. And this is how I'm going to start. So, 47 relatives, 47 records for William Furrow. And I pretty much know the William Furrow I'm looking for. He died roughly 1900, 1910, somewhere in that ballpark. And I think I would like to look for something around that. So I come over here to collections, and there's a couple ways you can do this. But it takes me to a screen, collections, and I can pick whatever I would like to look at from among the records I've found. I don't have to scroll through pages and pages. So I want to look at death records, and I want to look at census, and let's start with that. I'll look at some death records, I'll look at the census. Let's see what I can get here. And you'll notice that the spelling is extremely open. And I don't like any of these spellings, but I can look at it, but I'm not fond of these spellings. So I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna just change it a tiny bit. And now I've got a different spelling. That's not what I really want either. So I'm gonna clear my results, clear my search, reset the whole thing, and come in and just start looking for furrows. I'm gonna take the William out. Look for furrows, and I'm gonna still stick with Delaware because he was in Delaware. And see, I've got birth, marriage, and death, and I can look for any of those events. So I can filter a lot by what I want to look for. And I have a whole lot more records now, and you can see that just by leaving off the William and just looking for a name, I can really improve my records. So here's a James Furrow. There's a death record. There's another death record, a James Harrison. There's an Annio Furrow. I don't think that's a name I'm familiar with, but okay. And you can see how I've gotten a lot more results to choose from just looking at this way. I'm going to open up all my collections. I can turn those off. And now, death records, census, vital records. Look through all of those. So here we go. I have a record for an Annie Furrow, and I'm going to look at her because I'm interested in anyone who's associated with my William Henry Furrow. And I know that's his name from his gravestone. So here's James Furrow. I'm going to look at him first because it says his father is William Henry Furrow. And when I come in, you can see I have a reference for the record, where it came from. And then I actually have a document. And this was all made possible by the people who volunteered to do that indexing and arbitrating that they've been talking about. I can blow this record up. It's got a little transcription for me down here, but I prefer to look at the whole thing. So when I come in here, there's a lot of information on this record. And you might see the name, you might see the birth date, the death date, but there's a lot of other information you want to look at in a record like this. You want to notice the cemetery is one of the residents. You want to notice the address, because you can use the address to link him to other people in his family. You want to look at who reported the information, Reverend Ernst Furrow. How is he related to him? They've got the same name, but this might be a relative that you can use to do other research. All the other pieces of information to see if you can identify other people. It says his father was William Henry Furrow, and that's the man I'm actually looking for. So I want to save this record, and you can download it to your own files and keep a copy. You can print it out as well. But it's always good to keep a copy because then you can refer back to what you found. So when you come back later and say, I found another piece of information, you can use this to compare it to. You don't have to go through the search again. You can also choose to build a family tree in familysearch.org, and you can attach this record to that. That's free if you want to do it there. You just have to create an account. But here it says his parents are William Henry Furrow from Delaware and Le. The mother's maiden name of Le. Well, I know from other research her name was actually Leah, but this is a case where you would want to keep this information because Le and Leah are the same person. So I'm going to go back to my search results, and take a look at some of the other people I found. Here's Annie. This is a different type of death record. It's from Wilmington. And it gives her father's name, her mother's name, and her spouse's name. So I can blow this up. And I'm just scrolling my mouse here to make it so I can read it because I don't have super eyes. And look for her. Here she is. Annie Furrow. There's her address. Again, you can use this to link to other members of her family. Tells you her father was Tillman Hayes and her mother was Annie. The informant is William Furrow, and she's buried at Mount Olive as well. When you see a highlighted name like this, you can follow this person's name to see other records that may be associated with him. So this shows how he's related that way. Father, wife, daughter. I can go back to my search results. This is a search that a lot of people don't realize you can do. You can come down here to a parent search. I can actually do a search for Tillman Hayes and, let's see, the mother was Annie. I can update, and I can look for all records that contain those people. So this one gave me a John T. Hayes. Might be a Hayes, might be a Tillman Hayes, might be another name. But you can see here that it went through and it identified a lot of people in Delaware which have names closely related to or the same as the parents in that record. If I clear these filters, or just do search all collections, I'll find even more. So when I search all the records for a Tillman Hayes and an Annie, I've got Annie, I've got a Coney Hayes. He's in Tennessee. It's probably not the same person, but this is a really good lesson about how the same names can show up and be not the same people. We have a Tillman and an Annie Hayes in Tennessee and a Tillman and an Annie Hayes in Delaware in the same time period. They might be the same, they might not. We can again restrict this by Delaware, we so choose. And all of it is completely searchable this way. Let's stick just to Delaware and see what we get. So there we all are in Delaware, looking for parents. I can reset all the filters again and start an entirely new search. And I'm going to use one of our other residents at Mount Olive, Julia Bayard. I know she lived in Delaware. And here she is in 1900 on the census. And this is one that most people would have grandparents or great-grandparents in. It's a good way to start. And when I pull up the results for Julia Barrett, she's 66, she's widowed, she's the head of the household. And down here it gives me a list of all the people in that household. And the 1900 census gives us the names. And now you'll see why I picked her. The indexers did their best. This is William Henry Furrow again. His name looks like a B. And this is why you have to try a lot of different ways to get to the same group of people. because as try as we can, sometimes we can't read the names, we can't read the handwriting. So you always use the other information in your record to help you. I'm gonna scroll in here, and here, Julia Bayard, and this happens to be the 1900 census, you can get the street address from here. And you will see that this is over on Forest Street. Forest and Thatcher Street associated with the Bayards and the Furrows. She says she's born in August 1834. She's widowed. She had 6 children and 4 of them are still living. This suggests to you the children you should look for. She says William H. Furrow is her son. He was born in January 1845. Now, when I look at that, my first reaction is, stepmother? Maybe? She also says, John Bayard, brother. 45, John is a son, he's 20. That makes perfect sense. She could have a 20-year-old son. And then daughters, other people in the household. Going on across on this, you get all the occupations of the people in the household. So always look at the other information. And did she own or rent the property? You can find whether or not your ancestors owned land. One last look at one more thing for Julia Bayard, and then I want to end it, or I'll take questions so that you can look at all the wonderful displays in the room. I really want to show you her 1850 census because it matters. Julia Bayard. And here's the thing that matters. And this is why you always need to look for the group of people. Right in the center of the page, 1850, we have Charles Bayard, and notice the name has changed in spelling. He's 30. Julia is 25. And here is Henry Furrow, age 7. She shaved 10 years off her age by 1900, and I don't blame her. But there are other documents, and I won't take you through them. I went and I found the marriage records, I found pension applications of his half-brothers and sisters who are shown here in this census. They said his name was always Henry Furrow. They said he was their half-brother. And she actually testified in support of his Civil War pension, saying that he was her son by her first husband, who died before 1850. But they're living at the same address. They are on Thatcher Street, even in 1850. And the way I was able to tie them all together was the group of names and the address. So whenever you look at a record, think of unusual ways to search it. Think of other details that can help you identify the people. And most importantly, don't give up. Because if you don't find them the first time, this William Henry Furrow here didn't show up in our first searches, even though we had his name, even though we knew where he was. We had to search at him by slightly different ways. And I think that's the most important thing. If you don't find them, come back. Get a little inspiration, come back and try again. So here he is as Henry Terra. We eventually know him as William Henry Furrow. I'll stop there and just to give you a little hint of what you can do here.
Thanks, Regina.
Jim, I got it.
Yes.
Has to be said.
Go on.
Freedmen's Bureau.
Irwin Polk, by the way.
I forgot who I am.
Yeah, that's all right, that's all right. We'll remind him.
Freedmen's Bureau is a very important item, especially for African Americans, and especially for those that are tracing family members that may have been held in bondage up until 1865. One of the great African Americans of the time, Frederick Douglass, put all of his money into the Freedmen's Bureau Bank, and when they folded, I believe it was 1877, he lost all the money he had in there. But one of the gentlemen we saw in this initial video, Dr. Reginald Washington, I had the opportunity of hearing him speak in Baltimore, because I'll be in Baltimore, Philadelphia, Delaware. I travel. Why? Because I'm going to learn more by not just sitting in Delaware and waiting for it to come to me. But Reginald Washington came to Baltimore's chapter when he was still working at the National Archives, said he was in charge of all these boxes, and in them was Freedmen's Bureau records. And he traced one family and told us about that family. And it was a mother and a daughter. The daughter was 12 years old. Slavery had just pretty much ended 6 months earlier, and the Freedmen's Bureau helped them to negotiate a job between the mother and daughter and their former slave owner. The slave owner requirements were he was going to take the daughter, who was 12 years old, she was going to live with him for 1 year, be fed, clothed, and obviously housed by him, and would earn an income. Now everybody was shocked when they heard how much income it was. Any guesses as how much she earned for 1 whole year of work? Y'all just generous. Just give money, man's money.
$1.
Penny.
One
penny.
For a year?
She's 12 years old. He's feeding her, clothing, and giving her a place to live. This freed mama to do what she needed to do to get herself going and established. And one of the questions the group had when mom and daughter were rejoined, was there an extra body with them?
Yeah.
No, there wasn't. So he's an okay guy. But it was just one of those kind of stories where it stands out. I am going to say that plus several other stories will be told at our next meeting in March at the Brandywine Library. I'm going to focus on all the stories that I can remember that I've heard, but that one I wanted to expressly tell you because it had to do with the Freedmen's Bureau. And the Freedmen's Bureau, one of the things they did was help people get a job, either as, I think when you might have said they helped people get jobs through their former employer or whatever factory or company was in the town. It's on you now.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
I work at Job Corps on Vander Avenue, and one of the students' last name is Chisholm. Chisholm. And I went on Wiki and I looked him up, and I looked her up actually, Shirley Chisholm. Mm-hmm. And before there was a Barack Obama, and before there was Hillary Clinton, and some of the other people running for president outside the norm, she was running. And I was kind of wondering, possibly what responsibility does this guy have for carrying that name? And also, how strong a candidate was she when she ran? And what opposition did she face while she was running?
Shirley Chisholm.
Very strong candidate. Yeah, she was very strong, yeah.
What were some of the answers?
Yeah, very strong. Shirley Chisholm.
Did anybody vote for her?
I don't know, but she was female.
She didn't get that far.
You didn't get that far?
No.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Shirley Chisholm was
Hold on just a second, folks.
a representative.
Can you stand up for a minute? I can't hear you.
I got it. Where you at?
I'm originally from New York.
From New York? Okay.
Okay.
Shirley Chisholm, I was a teenager during that time.
Obviously, right.
And she ran for representative in New York City, Brooklyn District, I think. And she was a very outspoken person, and she knew what she was talking about because she lived it.
Okay.
There's nothing much I could say about it because I wasn't that into it at that time. But I knew she was headlines. And between her and, I can't think of the other.
Yes.
Who?
That's Barbara Jordan.
Barbara, yeah. She was one of the top people in the Congress. And she helped get a lot of the laws for the black folks going strong. So.
She was actually running, I don't know how far she got for running for
She
president,
did run
but
for
she was
president.
running.
She did.
Like all those other people.
She didn't get that far.
And sometimes you see the commercials, they'll have a picture of her and she's
Every
saying
once in a
something,
while.
if you watch commercials.
Well, the thing to remember about her is that she was the first
Right.
African-American woman
Person.
to run for president.
And she also has a book out, Unbossed. I haven't read it, but it just shows how strong she was and how she just didn't let them dictate to her, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. But it's probably a good book for someone to read if you're interested. It's called Unbossed.
Very outspoken.
Yeah.
Very outspoken she was. Yeah, you didn't have to tell her.
Very strong.
Very strong. You can't tell her too many times what you wanted her to
Very
do.
strong, yeah.
Okay. We are getting close to the end of our program today. Thanks for the question, Mike. I do want to say we've got some food and drink out the door, straight out, I think, then to the right. So if you want to have a little snack or something before you go, you want to chat with some folks, just hang around, that's okay. So take your time. We've got the time to do that. Also, don't forget we've got all these papers and things around. You can take some of these, please. Now, you don't simply have to take them because you know what's in them, but take them and share them with other people is what we're looking for you to do. That's how we put this whole organization together. Start sharing information with other people about this whole program, this whole idea that we all have a history. We just ought to know what it is, and you need to know what it is in terms of your family. Join us. Don't hesitate to become a member of this organization. We've been alive, so to speak, for about 3 years. And one of the things we learned from this program today is that there is no excuse for you not to know your family's history. There's none. Really, get on the computer, go to the family research centers, no charge, no money involved. I mean, if you really want to know, let's do that. Okay, it's vitally important to the next generation. Believe me. Thanks to the AAHG. AAHG is Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society members and guests, and also our officers, because it's all of us working together who make this thing happen. Nobody here gets paid for anything. We do it because we know it's the right thing to do. And we want you to join us. Stacy, I think she's out the door. Oh, here she is, right in the back there. Our membership chair, see her on the way out. Take at least the application. Join us. By joining us, you also join the national organization, by the way. And the national group, and there's a national conference every year that many of us go to. You're part of something bigger than just us here, okay? I want you to know that. So join up. Come along with us and be a part of what we're doing. Bring some ideas. We always try to entertain everybody's thoughts and ideas, and you know, we think we're doing something for the sake of our people. Believe me, we really do. Roz?
Yeah, I just want to let people know, if you're interested in research people from states other than Pennsylvania, I have a few research sheets for some of the I've done almost all the southern states, Delaware on down to Mississippi and Tennessee and Arkansas and all of those, Florida, all of those. So if you're looking for a resource sheet for some other state, you can find
Florence?
If anybody wants to know, out of curiosity, I had my DNA done in December. I have the results, and I brought my laptop with me, so if you want to see what it looks like after it's done, I'll be happy to share it. I have no problem. Believe me, it was a surprise, like most of us that get this back. So I'm over here at this table and be glad to show you what those results look like when they come in.
Thanks, Florence. I'm passing these out to folks. Take one if you will. This is about the National Museum of African Americans.